remember the first time I met her, at the Shore Secondary School Fair. Our moms dragged us into the classic awkward conversation. They talked, and we pretended not to notice each other until the ordeal was over, smiled, then walked away. We didn't have a single class together freshman year, but as anyone knows, that couldn't keep Anna from getting to know someone. I was lucky enough to become friends with her that year. Pretty soon, we realized we liked each other, and we were together for about a month. But as John or Caroline could attest, I screwed that up. In retrospect, that should have been it for us. She was the ideal student, funny, athletic, beautiful, and above all, the kindest person most of us may ever meet. And I had a lot of growing up to do. But somehow that wasn't it. We began talking again and even grew closer. We kept in touch over the summer, and when school started again in the fall, spent countless nights sitting at dinner tables in the dining hall, long after everyone else had left to hang out in the fields. I remember one conversation in particular, which I'll always regret. It ended in me saying, "I don't want to make things awkward between us." At the time, I thought I was being the mature one for once. Seeing as how things ended our freshman year, per usual, I was probably wrong. By the time I realized my mistake, I was just a month or two away from leaving for the island school. And this time, she was the voice of reason. I got 20 minutes of phone time a week. I told my friends they would get 10, and my parents the other 10. Then one night, I called Stephen Diaz. I noticed her voice in the background immediately. Before you could ask how I was doing, she had the phone. After talking that night, I usually cut Stephen out of the process and called Anna's phone. "Sorry, buddy." Finally, I came home. She was over the next day. After that, I remember Allie, my sister, getting mad at me for spending like every day with her. Pretty soon, junior year began. And then October 13th, her brother AJ passed away. I had only met AJ once over the trustees, but Anna loved talking about him and his shenanigans. It was obvious how close they were. Afterwards, I did everything I could to be there for her. I remember waking up to texts at 1 a.m. I remember sitting next to her in silence some nights, knowing that anything I said couldn't do a thing. But most of all, I remember her never missing a beat. And even on her worst days, she was her usual outgoing self, always putting others first. The year went on, and I realized something. She isn't just funny or smart or athletic or beautiful. She's also strong as hell. And I was only falling more in love with her. I was never nervous around Anna. Every conversation was effortless. I had never met someone who I could spend hours with and never get bored. No matter what happened in school that day, with my friends or on the athletic field, I could count on her to make my day every time I saw her. When she smiled, there was no way I couldn't. Finally came summer. We spent every day together that first week, going to the beach, driving around, going to the Red Sox, and I was even dragged to Starbucks for the first time. The night before I left for Canada, I got home from her house around 11 o'clock. By 12 o'clock, I had managed to pull my car out of the driveway without waking my parents and was back standing in her driveway saying bye one last time. In rural Newfoundland, I still didn't miss a single day of calling her. Even though it was a cold half-mile walk to get service, and I racked up a pretty impressive phone bill at $733. Matt can tell you one of these phone calls was actually cut short by a moose charging at me from the woods. Matt could also tell you I still went back out the next night. To be honest, I don't remember arriving back at my house when I got home from Canada, but I'll never forget when I pulled into her driveway. She came running out and hugged me, a little teary-eyed. I can't remember the last time I was that happy. Then about a minute later, Claire came running out. And about a minute after that, Mr. Trusty too. I think he yelled something along the lines of, "Has anyone seen my jockstrap in the laundry?" But then again, it could have been something a little more profane. We would spend entire days together. And on the days where we didn't plan on hanging out, I would usually get a text saying, "Hey, I'm on my way home from dinner. I'll just stop by." Stop by usually meant hang out until her mom had to give her a curfew. Everything in my life felt perfect. I could tell that she was really doing better for the first time since October. and nothing could make me as happy as that. On the morning of July 29th, I went out on my friend's boat, and she went to the beach with Kelsey, an old friend. Somehow, we ran into each other. We went for a short walk on the beach, and when we got back, it was time for her to head to the airport. I thought I knew what loss felt like. My cousin Amy had passed away a few months earlier at 28. I hadn't seen her since I was about 12. A week after that, my great-grandpa passed away at 101. You don't really, truly understand loss until you're in the middle of it yourself, trying to deal with someone being gone that you thought you'd have with you forever. I had been with Anna through her struggles and watched it firsthand, but I didn't really know. C.S. Lewis, when his wife passed away, compared faith to a rope. It is easy to say you believe a rope to be strong and sound as long as you are merely using it to cord a box. But suppose you had to hang by that rope over a precipice. Wouldn't you then discover how much you really trusted it? That evening, when Caroline called me, my rope snapped. I wish I could say I kept myself composed and that I was strong for the people around me, but I wasn't. The car ride to the trustee's house is still a blur. My eyes began to burn, and breathing was difficult. When I pulled in, it reminded me of the night I went over after AJ passed away. But this time, when I came through the door, Anna wasn't there to be comforted or to comfort me. C.S. Lewis also once said that no one ever tells you grief feels a lot like fear. I think that's still an understatement. Panic, confusion, depression are only a few of the feelings which make up grief. I couldn't function that first week. I wasn't eating meals, my parents took away my car keys, and I stopped sleeping. In the beginning, you promise yourself things will get better, that you'll come to terms with it, and eventually, somehow, come out a stronger and better person on the other side. This speech isn't about how I've done that, because I'd be lying. I haven't, at least not yet. You promise yourself those things because otherwise you know you won't make it. But here I am, months later, and I'm certain the pain still feels the same way it did that night at the trustees. What has changed is my ability to cope with it, to not show it, to act the way I have to on the outside when I feel completely different. Anna had said something along those lines to me once, and it wasn't until now that I really understood. She said a lot of things that didn't make sense until now. And here I am wishing I could tell her, now I understand, or now I know how you feel. I wish I could compare myself to her, but in reality, I don't hold a flame to her ability to push on through the day and never stop smiling. The cruelest thing is that this accident took away the one person I'd want to be with when feeling like this. I thought that if and when something like this happened to me, I would at least have Anna to turn to, just as she had me. There were times where I was so caught up in my sadness and anger that I'd pick up the phone to text her and only realize seconds later I couldn't. At first, the only time I was really able to pull myself together was when I would go over to the trustees. It's pretty humbling to see three amazing old blonde women who are far and away the strongest people I've ever seen. Spending nights at their house or taking Claire out for ice cream made me feel close to Anna again. I know that Anna would want me to be there for them, but in reality, they've been there for me. In all honesty, one way or another, I probably wouldn't be here if it weren't for them. That week, I had a few conversations with Jake, which I'll never forget. It was because of one of these conversations that when I knelt over the casket at Jake's funeral, I made a deal with him. He would take care of Anna, and I would do anything I could for Caroline and the rest of the family. I could stand here for hours and tell you all about all of the people who have been there for me, most of whom are sitting in this chapel right now. For your sake, I won't. But my sister Allie and Mr. McVeigh are two people who have gone out of their way for me time and time again, and I'll never be able to truly thank them. However, I've continued to struggle. I would take it on those around me, my parents most of all. Kids in high school and their parents can struggle at the best of times. The stress of things like college and my grades in school are nothing compared to this. But regardless of how I push my parents away time after time, I know they just worry about me and want what's best for me and love me. I'm so thankful they've been there. I knew coming back to school would be difficult, yet somehow it still blindsided me. On one hand, I wanted to feel close to Anna, but being back in the Brooks bubble, it was inescapable. There was no forgetting, even for a second, that she wasn't here with me. But I carried on. Not because I was strong, really, but because if nothing else, I didn't want to become that kid. The kid who broke down, the kid who couldn't handle it. I didn't want to be weak. There are days where I wished I had said yes when Anna asked if I wanted to come with her to Wisconsin. At the time, it seemed like nothing. I had forgotten about it until I went back through our texts afterwards. I'm still not sure whether it was because I felt that I could have done something had I been there, or if I just wish I had been with her. Deep down, I know Anna was thankful I said no. One night, sitting with the trustees, the idea came up that if I hadn't come to Brooks, if I had gone to Bell Hill or anywhere else, I would never have met Anna. Mrs. Trustee pointed out that I wouldn't be sitting here heartbroken. Without thinking, I said I'd do it all again if I had the choice. I thought about that for a while afterwards. Having the chance to avoid all of this pain and not taking it, why would I do that to myself? Most people are skeptical of two teenagers who say they're in love. That's understandable. And if you want to write off everything I say, there's nothing I can do. But the good thing about love is that it doesn't care what other people think or what they say or even what they do. Love is a personal thing between two people. It's why I haven't posted about this and why I haven't really opened up to people around here about it until now. What matters is how two people feel about each other. What matters is an inexplicable happiness that only comes from the other person's happiness. What matters is knowing at the end of the day that someone else cares. Somehow, I just happened to experience all of this before I turned 18. After my 18th birthday, on August 5th, I began to experience something else. Love and sadness go hand in hand, as any country song could tell you. But what usually is overlooked is that no matter how much sadness something brings, it is only because of how happy you felt before. My time with Anna was worth everything I'm experiencing now. Every sleepless night, every fight to get up in the morning, every long day, and every tear. So while that idea may not make any of this easier, or organize my thoughts, or bring her back, it is comforting to know that each moment of sadness is really just the other side of love. So even though this sadness will never truly go away, neither will the happiness that memories bring me. Since the accident, I've laughed over old stories with Caroline and Claire in the trustee's home more than I've cried there. It takes a pretty incredible person to bring people happiness along with the sadness after they passed away. But that's just who Anna is. Thank you.